Welcome back to Champions of the Mic, Episode 2. Today I'm here with a special guest. Her name is ReniaEdwards. How are you, Renee?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. So, Renee, would you like to give a little background on just your side of things, I guess? I'll just say it like that.
Okay. I always start off by prefacing the saying that I'm Grits. I'm a girl raised in the South. I'm originally from a small town in Renton, South Carolina. Had a great collegiate career playing softball at Shaw University in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is a Division II program. Majored in business management there. Went on, won a couple of championships there at Shaw for softball. Was inducted to the Hall of Fame later on, and also I had opportunity to receive an NCAA postgraduate scholarship to go to graduate school at Northern Illinois University. So very excited for that opportunity, and really kind of found my purpose while at Northern and working with student athlete support services. So during that time there, my major was physical education / sports management, and I had a graduate assistantship in the academic support area for student athletes. Also was blessed to say do a free internship within the compliance department that kind of helped shape my views and also opened a door for me to have an internship my last year at Austin Peay State University in Clarksville, Tennessee, where I was really able to be exposed to just different areas of athletic administration and working with the coaches and things of that nature. And from there, worked at University of Iowa and student athlete support services during a time when it was still separate athletic departments, since Dr. Christine Grant was the athletic director on the women's side, which I was there. And so got a chance to really see some of the things I was studying in school. When you talk about, Grant Acosta, some of that research there when it came to Title IX and gender equity, to actually be there and I work for someone that laid such an important foundation that actually gave me an opportunity to play sport and have my education taken care of. Was pretty awesome during that time. And from there, I went on to work at Virginia Tech, University of South Carolina, South Carolina State, Mississippi Valley State, where I did a lot of administration compliance work there, more work with NCAA, and was able to get involved with NCAA committees during that time. And then from Valley, went on to IUPUI in Indianapolis for a little over a year and a half, and did some more internal operations with facility management there. Served as actually interim AD for about 2 months after my athletic director stepped down, and then had the opportunity to be recruited to Hampton University, where I currently am, and serve as the deputy athletic director and senior woman administrator, working on mainly a lot of the student-facing service areas. So oversee compliance, academics, student health, athletic training, strength and conditioning, and then sport responsibilities with football, sailing, softball, and men's and women's track and field cross country, as well as the liaison with NCAA there. So that's in a nutshell a lot of what I've been doing over these about 20 plus years of working kind of in the business. And, as we, ask me questions and things that I need to expand upon that, knowing that we have a short amount of time to get things done. Okay.
Right. Wow, that's a big bag. That's a lot of stuff at one
A
time.
whole lot of stuff. Yes. They call me, I'm a nomad in a sense that.
Oh my goodness. Well, so through all your experience in sports, have you ever, I know you mentioned you said the Title IX, right? So, are you able to dive a little deeper into that aspect of that and how being around that or having, I guess, first or second hand, I guess, witness or eyewitness to that, just how does that experience broaden, I guess, your mindset toward, I guess, athletes that you are around and things of that sort your stage in your career?
Yeah, very interesting. It's not, what people think that you have to get rid of men's programs in order to, have women programs there and available. It's about, having, equality, in the sense that, no, everything's not 100% even in the perfect world is going to be there, but it's providing the opportunities for, the women student athletes. And a lot of that is based on the enrollment at the institution. You have to have certain proportionality of what's needed there, as far as, female students compared to male students and the different type of sports offerings that you have to have at the institution. And I think, Title IX gets a bad rap over the years because most programs think that, okay, we're going to cut all these men's programs in order to have the programs for women. When a lot of times, again, that's the choice of the, institution, choice of, whoever's sitting in that seat as far as, the athletic administration at that time in order to make it work. So there are a lot of ways that you can do that as far as looking at, how you balance things out. A lot of times you have, football programs, so that's going to skew your numbers. So then you need to offer, say, more female sports. To do that, you can also do that in many other ways, like, how much money are you putting in scholarship dollars? How much money are you putting in recruiting budgets? So there are ways that you can kind of balance those things out to meet the proportionality requirements there instead of just cutting men's sports. So sometimes Title IX gets a bad rap. That's what they try to use to justify the cuts when that, in fact, shouldn't be the case in how you do those things.
Okay. So do you think as far as, I guess, I don't know if this also plays a role in the Title IX, but you heard about how because I'm new to, the sports world and things like that. So do you think that has any effect on, how college, how a lot of colleges now or the players are trying to get paid with like the NIL and things like that? Do you think that does the Title IX and that situation, do they affect each other in any type of way? Or I'm
It can, just in the fact of, where individuals want to give and put their money. A lot of times traditionally, folks they're going to, put more, say, into football or men's basketball. Whereas with, the NLI right now, that's probably balancing some things out because believe it or not, some of the top money earners with the name, image, and likeness are female student athletes, primarily like in gymnastics, women's basketball right now, soccer, some of those sports are actually generating a lot more revenue than the men, in a sense. So it's all about the work that you want to put in to the programs. And, again, like I said, administration, I shouldn't say administration because we're not supposed to, technically be directly involved with, the collectives and things of that nature that bring, those dollars in to it. But of knowing, where those dollars need to go. Again, it's about the focus. I'm going to have a focus across the entire department that can work. Whereas a lot of times individuals want to give their dollars to the more revenue generating sports, which naturally are the football programs, the men's basketball programs there.
So do you think that as far as the Title IX, do you think that that is more, do you think that's gender filtered, or do you think that that the Title IX program has been set out to, you know, obviously, since you're a woman, you deal with women's sports and things like that. Do you think that it's set out to make, the African American woman or African American sports player like a beneficiary where it helps the opposite race? Or how do you feel about that?
No, I think Title IX plays a big part. I guess in the race, portion of it is more so this is sports offerings that are there. You have more some sports that are more traditionally seen as maybe having more of a particular race than other sports just because of access when it comes down to it. It's easier to play football or basketball where you don't need a lot of specialized equipment or you don't need memberships, such as golf or tennis, uh, things of that nature. So really, I think Title IX plays a role in that more so than this type of sports offerings that an institution may have. And that again, that just depends on sometimes where they're located, um, things that you're going to offer. Like you say, you see like the California schools or the Ivy League schools, they have up to maybe 30 sports that they're offering. Whereas, with this variety there. Whereas in the South, you see, somewhere between the 14 and 20, 22 different types of sports that are there. A lower number with football kind of, pushing the envelope pretty big, there, followed by, the basketballs, baseball, is very big in the South, and you'll see also some of the soccer programs. So again, it just depends on the region of the country that you're located more so than just race.
Okay, okay. Now, there was an incident recently, where there's this a women's basketball team. I guess they're preparing for the NCAA tournament. I think it was Utah or something, and they basically were there was basically some alleged racism directed toward the players. So how do you feel about that? Or yeah, just how do you feel about a situation like that occurring to, it obviously to the Utah women's basketball team, but just how do you feel as in that having to just athletes in general who are just trying to, get a good experience out of, being able to make it to something that like get that accomplishment as making it something like that, but then also having to deal with that racism aspect of it.
I think it was very unfortunate. You want the tournament experience to be a great experience for everyone.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, there are individuals in this world that, have, a not very good opinion of various races. And that in and of itself, I did read that article. I think it was in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And I can say I've been to that part of the country and heard of certain groups that are there.
Mhm.
So when I actually read the article and saw it and saw where it was located, I was just like, oh wow. It took me back because I actually had the opportunity to interview early on in my career at the University of Idaho and flew into Spokane, Washington. And one of the stops that colleague that was taking me around, showing me around was Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. So that's why I remember the name.
Mhm.
And that next morning, while getting dressed, for the interview, it was reported that there was a certain group that was going to be marching in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. So I was just like, wow, this is like a full circle moment that those type of things are still going on, and they will have to do a lot of training. I think with those students, a lot of support will be needed because again, depending on where they're coming from, they never have experienced that.
Mhm.
Sometimes you're in a college environment, and sometimes you're sheltered from the world. Depending on again how you were raised, where you were raised, and then being on the campus, sometimes some students don't vary off, from there to get those experiences. So that's I think that's the importance of having um, diversity, equity, and inclusion training. There are DEI officers that the NCAA has designated to have within the athletics department. But as you know, there are several states that are still fighting, those things or even banning, those types of designations within the university structure, even within the state structure.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, still in this day and age, you still need to talk about those things and prepare individuals for folks having different opinions. And I think a lot of times individuals don't want to talk about it and just have just narrow windows of thought to not want to expand the horizon. And like I said, it's still very unfortunate. It's a 2024, and we're still experiencing those type of things.
Right. So do you think that, which leads me to my next question, when it comes to athletes voicing their opinions on racial issues or racial matters, how do you think, well, for one, how do you think athletes should go about it? I don't want to say athletes should go about it correctly because obviously anything, racially, like if an athlete's racially profiled, you obviously should address it any way you feel comfortable because obviously that's an uncomfortable position to put, that the athlete is put in. But with today's days of, social media and getting the word out, and some athletes, when it comes to something like that, they're very scared of how they'll be looked at or judged for bringing us situation like that to the light. So um, how do you think athletes should go about addressing racial issues that either they've experienced or that they've been around and want to shed a deeper light on?
I think you get together and again, like I said, you talk about it. You talk with your diversity, equity, inclusion offices on your campus or that designee within your department, as well as having training. The biggest thing is having a conversation, and you start, with your administration. Again, understanding that you not only represent yourself, you're also representing that institution, and working hand in hand so that you're kind of collaborating on what the message is going to be. Knowing how you feel, uh, letting them know how you feel, and bringing in speakers, starting on the campus, and then you can branch those things out, to within the local community, and things of that nature. Because we've had a history of student athletes or athletes in general using their platform to bring about exposure, to certain issues and things of that nature to start the conversation. Because athletics is kind of the front porch of not only any institution, but also across the country. It brings people together, so it shouldn't be an instrument to tear people apart. That's the way I look at it. So again, it can be used in a positive way more so than a negative way.
Now, do you think that as far as a big topic that I know one of my professors been talking about has been the issue of all athletes, but specifically if we're talking about women athletes, some have obviously athletes, some are more gifted than others, but as far as athletes, or like there was a situation where these women track runners, they had just a natural higher testosterone, but they got banned from their race due to them having natural testosterone. So they got banned from their race due to the fact that I guess they thought they were on, sports enhancement drugs, which was boosting their testosterone. But obviously that wasn't the case. And it was unfair because, it's a women's sport. But I just thought that was just unfair.
Mhm.
So I thought that was I thought it was kind of racially profile. I mean, because I don't know, like with me, I think like, okay, like it's crazy because in the world today, it's like African Americans, if something like this, well, it did happen, but they, ban us and things like that. But if it was, another race, um, they might, either just sweep it under the rug or just let it keep going. But for this specific situation, they got banned from competing in something that they were qualified for and had been training for, and they got banned literally right before the race. So it was kind of also a last minute thing too. So
Yeah. I think that's unfortunate. Again, should be penalized for natural. Like again, natural because some folks are unfortunately they do drugs, do performance enhancing type drugs that they should be penalized for that. Uh, the again, sports world is shifting and changing as well, just because of just even biological factors, not only say, what you kind of say born with, but, those individuals that want to identify something other than, the sex that they were born with, and then, being allowed to compete in the gender that they want to identify with has caused a lot of controversy within, the athletic arena currently. So, it's kind of up to right now, I guess, to those governing bodies to decide who they're allowing to compete. But no, I don't think it's fair for them to not be able to compete in their sport when it's a natural occurrence within their bodies. Track and field has always been, I guess, a sport that has been highly regulated. And I look at it and tell even so much student athletes that track and field athletes they're just a special group because you don't not only do you go kind of with a team, but you actually competing against yourself because you're always trying to, get a better time or get a better, distance. So you constantly trying to do PR, and your training. You have to be conscious of the things that you're kind of putting in your body, as well. There, so it takes a dedicated person to do that. Unfortunately, there are some that do try to cheat the system, in a sense. So I guess that's, comes into their regulations of, the testing and, the monitoring, of those things. But again, if it's natural, it's natural, in a sense.
Right. So, a couple questions that I had. My first question, I guess, would be, do you think that, should race be a concern for young female athletes when they're trying to make a decision on where to commit for a college or a university?
Um, I don't necessarily say it's the race or the environment. What you look for. I think there are a lot of factors that go into, the decision on, where someone goes to school. I think, size, background, what you're open to, be exposed to, in a sense. And sometimes, you can't have, some parts of the country, yes, or probably say have a little more differences than others, there, and you have to be a little bit more careful in how you interact. And a lot of times, you also have to think of it. College is really like mini cities, in and of itself, that's contained. So you're going to develop and be around many different nationalities. It's more than just the race or black and white. You have folks that are coming from other countries that have their opinions as well. So it's up to the choice of that individual. Like I said, I ended up graduating from an HBCU, but that was never, I guess, my goal per se to attend an HBCU. So actually going to go to a predominantly white institution, a PWI, initially because I was going to do an MBA, 5-year MBA program, at the time, but ended up getting a scholarship to go to an HBCU, and I don't regret that. I think it did, help me in having maybe a level of confidence, a little bit more, nurturing, being instilled, that it didn't feel like a number because it was a smaller institution, there, and kind of gave me some tools to be able to prepare myself to go on to say a larger institution and be okay, with it, not seeing individuals like look like me all the time. But I grew up in a pretty, I think, diverse area, anyway, so that wouldn't have been a deterrent. It was probably for me more so going, say, to the Midwest, being from the South, as maybe the more determinant factor for me during that time.
Do you think that, like, as far as men or women that are trying to, men or African American men or women that are trying to further their careers in the sports world, whether, let's just say if it's an assistant coach or trying to be a head coach or a general manager or that sort of thing, do you think that there are social barriers that prevent us African Americans to taking that next step?
Oh yeah, most definitely. There are. Again, folks are more inclined to hire individuals that kind of look like them in a sense. So if you have, particularly, say, more men, white men in the seat, there, say as directors, you may see a larger influx of white males on staff. Not always the case, but that does, happen. And more so, it's probably more say of a social economic, stance that they think, HBCUs, a little bit, they are less resource than some of the larger PWIs, but that can be, doesn't have to be a white or a black institution for that. The the athletics arms race is crazy, and you wouldn't believe where you think some departments are a little bit better, financed than what they are. It happens, but you do get the stereotype that, yeah, if you went to HBCU or you coached at an HBCU, that you're probably not as skilled, as someone that's coming, say from a PWI, type environment. But I would say, again, that's opinions and stereotypes, where it's not the case. A lot of times, those individuals, they are one very skilled in their craft. They can coach, and sometimes they're a little bit, better in a sense that they know how to do more with less.
Right.
That, their ability to coach and win when you don't have, 5 or 6 different individuals that are around you working. You don't have, say, the player development, you don't have the videographer, you don't have, the extra equipment staff, dedicated strength and conditioning, coaches, but you're still making it happen. Again, so give those resources, and they can be even more successful in that sense. But yes, you do have the stereotype out there that just because they're, say, working or coaching at HBCU, that they don't have the skill sets to do that at a bigger institution.
My final question would be, what steps do you think should be taken to prevent racial discrimination in any sport? Or if you just want to talk briefly on, mainly focused on the sports that you've been around the most, what steps, if you had a chance to be able to come up with steps and implement them and get them started and rolling, what steps do you think you would take?
Steps I would take, individuals have to have an open mind. You have to be open to having individuals with differing opinions. You need to be confident enough to address issues, when they occur, and then pretty much do the right thing. It shouldn't be about a black or a white issue and how you treat players. Okay, how you just treat individuals. You can speak in the morning, say hello. That's how a person's day is. You don't have to be degrading or derogatory in your coaching style of how you treat people. Those things are very simple. And understand that, and say it's okay to agree to disagree. But at the end of the day, you do have to follow your coach, you do have to follow your administration, or why sign up,
Right.
to work that job, or why, go and join that team if it's say a toxic culture, or if um, they don't have a history of taking care of their people. And a lot of people, yeah, you do want to say come in like, oh, I can go in and try to change this organization, but then be prepared, to hit walls, hit roadblocks, and not want to give up, to want to continue to try to put things in place to make it better than what you found. So, working with, bringing in speakers, again, trying to really understand, the background of the individual that you're working with, because a lot of times you can't judge a book by its cover. You really need to get in and read the story and understand, what's going on. And a lot of times, individuals don't have patience for that. I tell my students, or even recruits or parents when they come in, I'm on this journey, that the time that say using the collegiate environment, that you're going to come in conflict with yourself sometimes, because you're going to have all these teachings or things that you've been poured into from your parents, from your grandparents, especially say if you go someplace outside of where you were raised, and you might find out that the things that they were telling you about a certain individual, certain race of people, certain gender of people, that those things are not actually true. Like I said, it's a melting pot. You have people coming from all over the world. You might have seen things on TV that might have been not depicted the right way, and then when you meet these, they're just like, oh, you're not that way, or you're not what I saw on TV. And you're not what, like, my mom said how you would be, and it's like, well, who should I believe, or what should I believe? What I was told growing up, or what I'm experiencing with this individual, or these individuals that I'm now with. So in a sense, now you're developing your morals and values, and your philosophies on how the world works. And I think if we had more just sit down and conversation with each other, we found out we may have more things alike than we do have different, in a sense, and not have the fear. And I think that's what a lot of it, with the racism and things of that nature, is a fear of losing power, of losing control. So, again, let's have those conversations.
I think those are some great first steps, especially because, every player has a different background to them. So the more you can get to understand them and like how they tick and things like that, yeah, I agree with you. You definitely will find
Yeah,
more.
and a lot of times that's the only way you're gonna be a team. You got to be able to work together. If you don't talk,
Right,
you don't get to
right,
know each other. How are you gonna be? How are you gonna be able to talk together? Most successful teams are the one that's pushing away that noise.
right,
They're not hearing. They don't want to have that noise, and they're bonding together.
right,
Like I said, you have guys that I might fight you in the dorm because I'm mad at what you're doing. You might have taken something, or you mess with my girlfriend, or things of that nature. But then you get out on the court. Okay, it's about ball.
right.
You know, it's about kind of the mission or the things that we're doing at that time. So just as again, I'm a true believer that sport can bring individuals together. It's a time when you're focusing on a common goal and doing things, and you want to win. You want to win.
Definitely winning is the end goal. So
Yeah, and that's the same thing in life. Whatever you do,
right.
you want to be successful in it. And then, like I said, those that get to know each other, or think that what brings, I guess, you since we're right now in the middle of March Madness, everything's going on. Everybody wants to see that, and they call it the Cinderella. They want to know the stories of these players and how they're connected, so that we can have one great shining moment at the end of the tournament,
Right.
because folks have gotten immersed in what's going on.
Right. Well, I definitely want to thank you for allowing me to get this interview because
Yes.
it was a blessing that you were able to come through and help me out with this. So I definitely greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you for being flexible with me and my crazy schedule. Like I said, it's March Madness down the court, and madness because we're shifting with coaching hires and searches and things of that nature. So it's never a dull moment. And I tell everyone I don't need days of our lives or young and restless anymore, because the business that I work in is every day, it's almost every hour. Something is shifting, and something is going on. It's like, wow, man, did that happen? Or you may know someone that's kind of going through it, like, whoa, like, man, Brian, I need to call him, make sure he's okay. You know, uh, with that, so it's just a crazy time in the world of intercollegiate athletics. From top NCAA, Congress want to get involved. Like I said, NLI, transfer portals. It's a
Yeah,
lot.
I'm going on right now all at one time. Oh my goodness. Just to
Yes,
think about all that stuff, it's a lot.
it is. It is. But try not to get lost in the mix again, the student that we have to serve, and try to guide through the process so that they can have a great experience in the university, as well, and how we tie in together with everything.
Well, I appreciate you and I greatly appreciate this interview and I wish the best of luck in all your future endeavors and coaching changes and everything. I hope everything runs smoothly.
Yes, and I hope you're, like I said, enjoying your class and you're getting the most out of it, and again, helping to contribute to getting that A.
That's the end goal, yes. Well, thank you
Definitely
so
that.
much. And can you shout yourself out one more time?
Again, ReniaEdwards, Deputy Athletic Director and Senior Woman Administrator at Hampton University.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
All right, bye.